Alright guys, how you guys doing? Welcome to Apple Weekly number 42, the show where I cover everything Apple. Before I get started, as usual, I'd like to say thanks to our two sponsors, parcelmonkey.com and igear.com. This episode in particular is going to be iPhone orientated. The Mac rumours in terms of the Mac Pro, any MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, Mac Mini, iMac, there hasn't really been any rumours over the past week. It's all just kind of been iPhone, more iPhone, and guess what? More iPhone. So that is what this episode is primarily going to be about. Just a heads up if you guys were hoping to see something else. So getting started with the first story, if you've been kind of on a different planet or hiding under a rock for the past week, Apple have announced their upcoming Keynote, and this is the invitation they've sent out to media outlets. And man, do Apple know how to market stuff or what. This kind of sums up Apple's kind of marketing. It has just done so beautifully. This is what it is. You've got a calendar, Tuesday the 4th of October, that is when the event is, the keynote is. You've got a clock, 10 AM, that's usually about 5 PM, 6 PM UK time, and I'll leave the world timings in the description or on screen for your viewing. You've got a map there on the bottom left, which, are they going to be doing something like, you know, TomTom or Google Maps? Is that going to be one of the things in the keynote? Who knows? And last but not least, the phone icon with a number 1 on it. What could that mean? Could that just mean only one iPhone is being launched, you know, come the 4th of October? You know, that could be one, I think. And then it says, let's talk iPhone. Now what they haven't announced is, will there be a live video stream? They've had some live video feeds for some of the events, but for some they haven't, so we won't really find out until about any web feeds until the last minute usually. And if there is, just follow me on Twitter, Facebook. I will announce the web URL as soon as it becomes available, if it becomes available. So really, just before kind of digging more deeper inside the rumours and everything iPhone, there's kind of people saying there's only going to be one phone. There's going to be the iPhone 4S. Some people are saying there's going to be two phones. My take on it is this: if they were only going to have the iPhone 4S, why did they wait until now, October, to release it? Now Apple have kind of an annual kind of bumpage for the iPhone, and it's usually around the WWDC time, June, July. But this year was different because we didn't have it, of course. And the only reason that I can think of is Apple A, wanted to change the dates in which they announce iPhones. They wanted to change it from the summer to more the holiday season, and that allows them to sell the iPads earlier in the year and then have that gap in between, and then the iPhones. And of course, if you have the gap between the iPads and the iPhones too close, those are two major products for Apple, and to have such a short gap isn't really viable. The second thing is, they were wanting to release two iPhones, or they still are having to release two iPhones, the 4S and the 5. The 4S is, of course, indicates a small bumpage, as we've seen from the 3G and the 3GS. It was just internal bumps, and that kind of points towards that, okay, if it was just going to be an internal bump, surely that wouldn't be too difficult, it wouldn't be too much of a challenge in terms of design. Whereas the iPhone 5 indicates that it's a whole new magical revolutionary device, design's changed, and that presents more challenges. And of course, if they are releasing two iPhones, then it could make sense, okay, it's taking them longer to figure it out, and hence why they've moved the dates forward to October. So I'm personally not too sure what the reason is for having an October launch, but I guess we're going to find out in the next few days whether one device is coming up or two devices are coming up. Now in terms of specific rumours, Apple released the next version of iTunes, a beta for developers, and developers have been kind of digging around in the coding, and they've found a reference to the iPhone 4S. Now why would Apple do that? Is that kind of a just marketing kind of controlled leak kind of thing? Of course, the moment, you know, developers found this, it was in all the blogs, and that is one of the things where Apple kind of create hype. I can't believe a developer would intentionally leave a piece of coding in there, and specifically naming it iPhone 4S. It could happen, I'm not saying it, you know, it's a mistake, but it's just a schoolboy error in essence for Apple to do this. But then again, this coding has been embedded into the beta for the past month, since August, so it's just recently been discovered over the past few hours. So take for what that really is. So this next piece of information is pretty cool, and it's coming directly from Apple's inventory system. Thanks to 9to5Mac for sharing this. Basically, Mr. X, who is the source, claims that there are 2 new products within Apple's inventory system which have been updated recently, coming up to Apple's Keynote in 2 days' time. Specifically, iPod Touches. Now, while this does kind of sound good at this moment, all we're really going to see is a colour change, and the reason why that is because the codes that have been uploaded to the inventory system are N81A. Now, the current iPod Touches, the black ones, are codenamed N81, and the upcoming ones are N81A, which indicates it's the current line plus, you know, some exterior change, which could only mean one thing: white iPod Touches. I've covered this previously in Apple Weekly, images and kind of rumours pointing towards a white iPod Touch. The other downside to this codename also is that the capacities of the iPod Touches aren't going to change, so that only the colour is going to change, and we're still going to have 8, 32 and 64 gig capacities, which is kind of a downer. And then the second part of the SKUs found in Apple's inventory system relate to iPhones, and they've got an iPhone 4S, but could that just be an iPhone with 8 gigs of storage? That was of course rumoured a few weeks back, and indeed a few months back. And then the second SKU, could that just be a really new device, the iPhone 5? Or is it just merely representing a black iPhone 4S or 5 versus, you know, a black one? So it's just 2 different colours but the same device. I'm secretly hoping it's an iPhone 4S plus an iPhone 5. There's also been reports that the prices of the iPod Touches are going to drop, which is good news for us international customers, because we know in the UK they are a bit of a rip-off with the VAT and so on. So it'd be good to see the iPod Touches, you know, come down in price, and they are essentially iPhones without the phone, if that makes sense. Duh. Just when you thought rumours can't get crazy enough, this image appears. Now, it's a label, it's what you find on all Apple products on the bottom of them, labels indicating what the product is, the serial number, the model number, and as you can see it says iPhone 4S white 16 gig. Whether this is real, whether this is a homemade project by a 10-year-old, don't know, but some people have said it could be real, some have said it can't, and to be honest, I'm not really going to go into it since we're only kind of 2 days away, but take from what you hear from now until the event, don't take it seriously. And while we're on this image, why not show you this, which has appeared in Radio Shack's inventory system. A lot of these have been appearing in AT&T systems as well. The next generation iPhone cases have started to appear. How on earth did third-party companies get a hold of what the next generation iPhone 4 or the next generation of iPhone is going to look like? You know. But could this just be an error? Could this just be a placeholder for the system, for the database to say keep this slot open for the next generation iPhone? In all possibilities it could be. And just really winding up the iPhone stories, I think you've heard enough. Facebook is going to be making an announcement at the upcoming keynote by Apple, and in specific we're going to see Facebook for iPad finally, a revised version of the iPhone version, and some sort of HTML5 based application, web application that is. This is an exclusive by Mashable, and you know, Apple and Facebook did work over the iPad app, but they fell apart. But now this kind of looks legit. Finally, we don't have to use third-party apps, and of course we should hear about this. Could be the one more thing by Apple. Who knows? I hope it isn't. Okay, I promise that is enough of the iPhone stuff. Moving on to the iPod Classics and the iPod Nanos. Apple this week took off the section where you could go into the iTunes store and specifically download click-wheeled games, and that is of course indicating the Classic is going to get dropped. Of course, the Classic, I specifically mentioned the Classic because it wasn't updated last year. There was no mention of any kind of Classic changes. It's been going on for the past 2 years without a refresh, without a bumpage. The iPod Nanos got updated last year. Basically they cut off the click wheel and just made it kind of half. And reports are that the iPod Nanos, the iPod Shuffles and the iPod Classics are going to go. And of course this latest move by Apple, removing the section on iTunes, doesn't look pretty good. Of course the data shows it all. Revenues, the units sold of iPods aren't doing too great. because, you know, iPad and iPhones, iPod touches are doing well. So my hope is the capacity of the iPod touches go up to 128 gigs, although the previous report I just done on the iPhone stories and the iPod touches, by the leaks of the codes and Apple's inventory system, the capacities don't look as if they're going to change from the current models. But I'm secretly hoping that was all just gibberish and Apple are going to do something more in terms of storage, give us 128 or 256 if we're lucky. I guess my question to you guys is, are you really, let's say if Apple did introduce an iPod Classic, would you get one? Or would you rather prefer if they just upgrade the iPod Touch in terms of capacity? Heck, have you still got an iPod Classic and you're still using it? Or do you find that you're kind of moved on from the iPod Classic and you're using more of the music stuff on the iPhone or the iPod Touch? Leave it in the comments below. And last but not least, not really Apple related as you can see from the image, Google opens its first kind of retail store or retail presence. It's within PC World in London. Of course, PC World are pretty much what Best Buy is here in the UK, and they've got a small kind of 258 square foot space within this PC World outlet, and all they're selling is Chromebooks, which I've yet to test out personally. But I don't know, something about the setup looks pretty cool, very Apple-ish, and of course this could be signs of things to come for Google. Of course, Microsoft started the same way. They started branding, marketing, had stalls within, you know, like Curry's, PC World and stuff, and then now they've moved on to their own stores in the US, and Microsoft's kind of vision is to have more Microsoft branded stores elsewhere around the world. So this is Google testing the waters within a current, you know, well-established brand, PC World. I say well-established, it is really going down the drain. This store by Google is known as the Chromezone, and Google's marketing guy has said that this is just a kind of testing the waters. They're going to see where this leads up to. And they've also done some research which shows that 80% of laptop buyers prefer to use it in store before, you know, end up buying one, which I'm not too sure if that's true or not. But hey, let's see what comes of this. Expect a Google Chromezone coming to a PC World or a store near you. I'll be testing one out, or I'll be going to one just to see, just to get the hang of it, to see what it is, just to kind of mess around with the Chromebook because I've never actually used one. But guys, that's it really for Apple Weekly. I hope you guys liked it. If you can leave a comment or a video response, that would be pretty cool. Those of you watching on iTunes, if you can leave a rating, a review, or your comment in the review box, that would be pretty nice. My question to you guys now, for those of you who are still awake and tuned in, come the keynote, will you be buying an iPhone? What iPhone do you currently have, and what one, let's say if an iPhone 4S plus an iPhone 5 come out, which one would you get and why would you get it? And what are the features you're looking for? Leave it in the comments below, and as always guys, I will see you guys in another life. Cheers. Oh, and yes, for those of you asking, I will be getting the next generation iPhone myself. Looking to send a package at the lowest price possible? Simple. Visit parcelmonkey.co.uk, follow these 4 simple steps, have the package collected from your doorstep, and then sit back and relax.